Welcome to Lessons in Progress,
the podcast where growth is messy,
lessons are ongoing,
and perfection is not the goal.
I am your host, Jessie
and Alicia.
Welcome back to another episode of Lessons in Progress. Today is going to be fun and lighthearted. We're going to get into some back to school, some teacher talk. If you haven't seen our last 2 episodes, go and check those out on our YouTube channel. Episode 2, you guys got to know us a little bit deeper personally. And so this episode, I think you'll get to know us a little bit deeper on our professional level. Yeah. So we're excited to get into it. Should be a fun, girly episode. So here we go with our pre-topic cues. What is your ideal self-care day?
Okay, my ideal self-care day is not setting my alarm, waking up naturally. Usually I wake up still in the morning, but I do not want to be woken up by my alarm. It is getting my cup of coffee in the morning, whether that's at home and nice and warm, whether that's like through a drive-through because I'm usually like still in my PJs waking up. Something iced maybe. I like to organize the house, make sure like the kitchen and like everything around me is clean so I can kind of just like fully relax. And then usually it looks like getting some movement in, whether it's a walk, whether it's going to the gym, and then definitely taking a nap. I love my naps, so that is a must on one of my self-care days.
Love it.
What's your go-to coffee or tea order?
Okay, well, I'm not a tea girly, so coffee. If I'm going to Sunroom, I get their Strawberry Boulevard. It is so good. They never miss, like literally 10 out of 10 every single time. In the rare instance that I'm somewhere else for coffee, I will get an iced oat milk hazelnut latte. That's like my go-to. But always iced when I'm getting it out, always hot when I make it at home. So
Yes, I'm the same way. I don't know why. Let us know if you're the same way, but
yeah.
like I don't make iced coffee at home. I just
No,
don't.
and even when I've tried, it just like doesn't taste the same.
No.
And when I'm home, I feel like I want a hot coffee, but when I'm out, like I want an iced coffee.
Yeah,
So
it just makes sense.
yeah. Girl math.
Girl math. Girl thoughts. Okay, we're gonna get into back to school talk. It is coming around the corner for us. I know some teachers have already been back to school and they've had contract time. So we're gonna get into it. How long have you been teaching? What grades have you taught?
I've been teaching for 7 years, which is crazy. I don't feel like I'm old enough to have been teaching for that long, but this going into my 7th year. This will be my 4th year in kindergarten, and then I've done 2 years in 3rd grade and then 1 year in 1st. So, I feel like I'm closer to 10 now. I'm not a new teacher. Like, people come to me for advice. I'm like, "I don't know. I just started."
You're like, I'm still learning as I go. I don't
Yeah.
know.
How long have you been?
I have been teaching kindergarten for about 6.5, going on my 7th year. I started mid-year, and so it's kind of hard for me to count officially, but I will be going on to my 7th year of teaching just kindergarten. I've been with the kindergarten babies for a while. I love it, but I definitely always black out the beginning of the year or else I
Yes.
would not come back to teach kindergarten. It's a little rough.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that for sure, but I agree. It's like I feel like I'm still a first year teacher and I'm still learning so much. But yeah, we're no longer provisional. Like we've
No.
been here, so I guess we kind of know what we're doing.
That's what they say. Do we still get anxious for back to school?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. For me, I'm just kind of an anxious person in general for anyone that knows me. And so I definitely get anxious. I feel like once summer starts, it's kind of hard to fully like relax as a teacher and be like, okay, I have a break for a minute. Like it takes a minute. It takes like all of June to get into a routine. And then July hits and you're like, this is my last month. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to be going out of school, back to school. I need to enjoy it. But, like, then you start seeing, like, ads for teacher planners, you see back to school stuff, and you're like, "Oh, it's time."
Yeah.
So, during July, I definitely start to get anxious, just feeling like, "Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
We're gonna be getting into it again." What about you?
Yeah. I still get anxious, yes. I do feel like I get anxious though about like different things. So it's more like prepping materials that I get
Mhm.
anxious about because there's just never enough time in any day to get everything done. So I usually go in a few days before contract time to get my classroom all set up and ready because that takes a while. Um And so then I can focus on, like, prepping materials when we have to go back for contract time when we're not in our meetings. So I used to get anxious about, like, potential student behaviors, and I that doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah, you're a queen at behavior. She's awesome.
Thank you. But yeah, I still get anxious. Even the other day, I was, like, trying to go to sleep, and I literally could not fall asleep because I was thinking about all of the things that I need to do in the classroom and, like, okay, I need to reprint this because my kids destroyed it last year, and just, like, little things, that keep you up at night. If you're a teacher, you know, like, it just yeah. I think every teacher still gets anxious no matter how long you've done this. It's just on different things.
Yeah,
So
100%, and I think, like, for me, like, I definitely get anxious about, like, coming back, curriculum planning, all that kinda stuff, but because I have been in the same classroom, luckily, I've kind of figured out, like, how I like my classroom to be set up and what
mhm,
works and how the flow goes, and so that's something I used to be anxious about is, like, where should I put things? How should this be organized? And now I kinda have a routine that works for me, and so that's something that I don't have to stress about as much, thank God.
yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh, we're gonna get into some, like, really chaotic things that have happened. One of the questions we have here is, "What is the most chaotic thing you've witnessed on the first day of school?" And, yeah, I black it out, but I remember some vividly. So one of the most chaotic things that I've witnessed on my first day of school was about 2 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, and we were starting the school year with a lot of students. Usually start like, we get kids that come and go or we add to our class
Yeah,
after each week kind of, but I remember vividly the first day of school, I had at least 27 kids, 28 kids, and mind you, a lot of our students, that we get coming into kindergarten have never been to preschool, and so they don't know how school works. Like, not only are they learning new academic skills, they're also learning, like, what is a line?
yeah.
How do I sit? What is expected of me when I'm in school?
What's my name?
What is my name?
Please don't call your child, like,
Oh,
Bubba or Lovebug or Stink, like, I mean, call them that, but, like, they
give them their name too. Let them
because when
know.
I say, "Hi, honey, what's your name?" and they say Stink, I don't have a Stink on my roster. So,
Period.
like,
Let them know, like,
please
let them say
please teach your children their name.
yes, literally, period.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what happened is, like, we're getting kids lined up in the morning, and it's so chaotic. You're trying to figure out what the kid's name is,
Mhm,
whose line they belong in, what teacher they belong to, and you're walking this huge line of students because, mind you, it's just yourself. We don't have any
mhm.
paras, and we have a freaking our school used to be a middle school, so we have lockers.
Yeah.
And these kids do not know how like, they all need help trying to open this locker to put their backpack in.
Mhm,
So then you're helping all of these in the hallway while you're also trying to have kids enter the classroom, and then when the kids enter the classroom, they're standing there because they don't know how to recognize their name.
mhm,
They've never been in the classroom, they don't know where to sit, they don't know what to do. So you have kids standing and staring, and then you also have kids who are like, "Ooh, look at this toy on the shelf, I'm gonna pull it off and start playing with it."
mhm.
And you're, like, halfway in the hallway, but, like, trying to have be halfway in the classroom, and you just can't do it all. And
No.
so that was a really stressful morning. We also eat breakfast in the morning. So then it's like trying to get them to sit down and then also helping them open any type of food because they haven't opened a sandwich bag before or
Mhm.
whatever. Or they can't put the straw in the juice box or they can't open the milk yet, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, "Teacher, teacher," and you're like, "No, I'm not teacher. My name's Miss Mueller. Please stop. Raise your
Yeah.
hand."
Yeah.
But you haven't taught that yet. And so during that time, I also had like a fun friend who was nonverbal, and he came into my classroom, and he got dropped off by his grown-ups, and we did not know what class he belonged to. He came into my room, so I thought he was my student, and I was kind of just doing, like, looking at the tables, seeing where I got students seated,
Mhm.
and then saw, like, "Okay, this is one name. This must be Aiden or something." So I'm calling this child, "Aiden, Aiden, come here, Aiden, come sit down." Obviously, this child's not responding, but this child is not named Aiden. This is not Aiden.
Right.
And so then Aiden's climbing on the bookshelves, and he's standing up, and he's jumping off, and I'm like I had to call for help. I was like,
Yeah.
"I don't know what to do." We somehow found out that this student does not belong in my class. our social worker had to like call all of the parents and go through class lists and be like, "Hey, did you drop your child off today without staying? Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to figure out who this child is, what their name is, and how we can best support them and whose class they belong into." And we were able, like, after some time, we were able to figure it out. But that was definitely a wild, wild morning for sure.
Yeah. No, that I honestly feel like you have those stories, but, like, every first day of school, regardless of what grade you teach, is just crazy, like, in different ways.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was teaching in Houston, one of our I think it was my 2nd year teaching, but, like, our first day, um, our dismissal procedure was to hand walk, like, literally, like, hold the child's hand to their cars. Obviously, like, it's safer, so, like, we know who the child's going home with. We have already, like, pre-approved the parents and, like, we've done that all, already, but dismissal took 4 hours. We started early, like, I think school dismissed by 4, and so we started at, like, 3, but teachers weren't leaving the campus until 7, and then you're, like, exhausted, your feet hurt. You're in Houston in August, so you're, like, sweating,
Yeah.
um, and then you're like, "Alright, back again for tomorrow." So, yeah, like,
You
some in kinder, you have them, like, climbing all over shit and pouring milk on each other, and, like, it's just, like, a madhouse, but, like, in upper grades too, it's like there's always something, like, regardless of what grade you teach, there's always gonna be something, so
Definitely. Would you say that is one of, like, the most chaotic days you've had for your first day? Yeah, it's like you might
yeah.
as well just have a sleeping bag and fall asleep and be there the next
Yeah,
morning. What's the
yeah.
point?
I mean, honestly, the entire, like, first for sure, the first 2 weeks of school, like, your body and, like, everything's getting used to it again, but honestly, even the first month, like,
Oh,
Friday nights, don't call me, don't text me, like, unless you're one of my people, like, don't bother, it's
I
not
am
happening.
not going out. I will be
No.
sleeping with my cozies on.
Yeah,
Like, that's
like,
about it.
at 4 o'clock every day, I'm home on my couch, so
Yeah, it's rough. Okay, something that's kind of fun. I love watching TikToks about this, but what is in your teacher bag?
so I'm a minimalist, I just don't like to have a lot of clutter, like yeah, I just can't, like, my brain clutter don't get along. So, I just keep, like, the necessities. I have, my laptop in there, I have my teacher planner, I have a bag that has, like, floss and lip gloss and lotion and hand sanitizer, and then I have a bag with pens. If you're a teacher, you know. I feel like we have some, like, strange love with
Oh,
pens,
yeah,
like
we need everything to
we
be like
love
yeah.
pens. So I have my felt tip pens, and then I also have, like, my regular, like I like the black, ink, so I have a ton of black ink pens, and then I am, like, a sunglass bitch through and through. I have to have my sunnies, so, I always have a pair of sunnies in my bag, so, yeah, when it's time for recess or dismissal, they come on, and that's all. I just have, like, what I need in there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. For me, I would like to say I'm as organized as Jesse, but I'm not. And it would be funny because my husband, a day, he always likes to joke with me and say how I like everything to be like organized and clean and yada yada at the house. But my teacher bag does not resemble that. So, I have, like, the essentials, of course. I have my Chromebook, the one that I get from the school. I
Mhm.
have my teacher planner. I have a little bag with pens, of course. We made a little cute, like, bag last
Yeah.
year that we decorated with our teammates' initials, and so that's really cute. We have lots of pens. I have, like, feminine products, hand sanitizer, but for some reason, I start off the year, it's clean, it's organized, and then, like, I end up just, like, throwing little things here and there, and then it gets really, really messy. So,
Yeah.
my goal this year is to keep it organized, and I also think I, like, try to shove my lunch containers in there,
Yeah.
and there's just not enough room, and so I need to
Mhm.
do what Jessie does. She has her own little Lululemon bag, puts it in the fridge. I just need to have, like, 2 separate bags, one
Yeah.
for, like, lunch, drinks, snacks,
Yep.
and then the other one for my actual teacher stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hold me to that this year.
I'll try. Alright, we're gonna do some hot takes. So, We tried to come up with some questions that we feel like, especially like first year, second year teachers, would probably like have pressure on themselves to do. So we're gonna just like kind of talk about this. This first question, I'd actually like never thought about like any other way
Yeah.
of doing this.
Yeah.
So should teachers decorate their classrooms before meeting the kids or wait and co-create it?
For me, I feel like as a teacher, you kind of have your own personality and you have your own
Mhm.
aesthetic. And so your classroom kind of symbolizes who you are as a person. And so I feel like teachers will kind of come up with a theme or a color scheme that best suits them
Yeah.
and kind of will start to decorate and coordinate and organize things in that manner. I've always decorated the classroom by myself. I've picked my own theme by myself
Yeah.
because we, at the end of the day, are the ones spending a lot of time in there, as well
Mhm.
as our students. But we want to make sure it's a place that feels comfortable for us, cozy for us, organized for us. And so if we have a certain like aesthetic or color scheme or a way of organizing, I think as a teacher, you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
I do believe in like co-creating a space like once students get into the classroom,
Mhm.
whether that comes to like expectations or having like student artwork around. I think I'm a huge believer in that because it is their classroom as well. Um, but when you're getting started, like definitely do what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, do what
No,
you want in the
I
classroom.
totally agree. Everything you said. Second.
Yeah. So do you think classroom themes are necessary or just aesthetic pressure? What do you think?
Okay, I feel like classroom themes, decor, whatever you wanna call it, I do think that they're necessary. I think it's really important to create an environment that, like, you feel comfortable in because we do spend so much time in our classroom, but that the students feel comfortable in. If the students, like, feel comfortable and cozy and, like, it's, like, a space that they want to come to and it's warm and inviting, 1, they're gonna want to come to school, which is huge, but 2, like, they'll be comfortable in there, so, like, they'll be able to learn and to absorb, what you're trying to teach them. I have been in rooms where I'm not kidding you, it feels like you're in, like, a jail, because it's like nothing's on the wall. They just have rows of desks, and it's like it's literally colder. Like, I'm yeah,
Unfortunately, that is a typical government-funded classroom.
yeah,
So
true,
yep,
true.
keep going, but
So,
period.
yeah, I mean, I
That's the
do
problem.
that is the problem. Like, and it is expensive. It does get expensive to, like, decorate your room. So I'm not saying, like, drain your savings to decorate it, but if it's not a place that, like, you would wanna come spend 7 plus hours a day in, it is not gonna be a place that your students want to come spend that much time in. Um, and I think, like, regardless of if you teach kindergarten or if you teach 12th grade social studies, the decor is gonna look different, obviously, but, like, yeah, like, you've gotta have some stuff up, it's gotta be warm and inviting. Um, it's gonna just cultivate, like, a space where, like a community, like, where you wanna be, where your kids wanna be. It really I feel like it sets the mood. Like,
100%.
yeah, I don't wanna walk into a cold, gross classroom every day, like, let's
No,
walk into somewhere, like, fun and, like, eventually, as the year goes on, like, you see your work up there, so, like, you're excited, and so, no, I don't think that it's just, like, pressure. I think if you're gonna teach, like, you need to be thinking about how you wanna to decorate your classroom because it's more than just, like, decor. Like, it truly is like a it's like the base for your classroom, community.
100%, and I think I've been seeing on TikTok, and I don't know what it is, but obviously the teaching community is really high populated with females.
Mhm.
We have lots of male teachers too who are amazing, we need more, but we have a
Yeah.
high, female population of teachers, and so I have seen recently on TikTok, like, people or moms or grown-ups or whoever getting upset that, like, their child's classroom looks a certain way and it's girly or whatever, and it's this aesthetic that the teacher likes, I guess, and it's not like dinosaurs or whatever, another aesthetic. And they get kind of frustrated because 'cause they're like, do the boys wanna be in that space? Like, is that something that they enjoy being around?" And yeah, the boys, the girls, whoever is in the classroom,
Mhm.
they enjoy it. They just want a space that, like, is feeling warm and inviting.
Yeah.
They don't care about, like, what the theme is or what the decor is. It's just like a place that has order and is organized and just, yeah, it feels warm and welcoming. So
Yeah.
I think that's
Well, I
huge.
also, like there's more to co-creating a classroom than just, like, the decor you put on the walls.
100%.
And so, like, that's also something that, like, I've never had a parent complain about my decor, but if they were to, I'd be like, "Well, like, we do things to co-create this community together." Um, Also, like, the amount of time it takes to print and laminate and hang up and, like, decorate a classroom, we wouldn't get into teaching curriculum if we co-created it until, like, December.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, with 5-year-olds too, like, December is maybe a little bit dramatic, but, like, it'd be a while because it takes weeks when we come in, in the summer to do it, that, like, that's something that maybe, parents don't realize is how long it takes, and, like, we're doing it all by ourselves, and so in that sense, we don't have time to co-create that part of the classroom. We Alicia and I, we co-create a ton of other things in the
Yes.
classroom, but, like, yeah, we will be like, nope, this is going on the wall and this isn't,
Yep.
so
Yep.
sorry."
Sorry.
Um, Speaking of, like, the aesthetic, do you think that the Pinterest perfect classrooms help or hurt new teachers?
Ooh, this is good. Okay, so I know, like, when I was a first year teacher, I was, like, scrolling the internet trying to figure out what I wanted my theme to be and how I'd want everything to look, and I definitely did turn to Pinterest for a lot of that. However, I think you don't know what you don't know and what's gonna work and what's not, and so you have these really cutesy, amazing ideas on Pinterest, and then you go like, you spend all of this time making it and organizing it and putting it up in your classroom, and then you get to school and you have 27 5-year-olds and it just does not work. Like, yeah, maybe if I had a para and I had 10 students in the class, this would be great. But unfortunately, with one teacher and 27 kids, this is not gonna work.
Mm-mm.
And so I feel like there's great things on Pinterest to get inspiration from, but it's not something that is set in stone and that you should just take and automatically implement into your classroom. And I think it kinda comes with, just, like, being in the grade level and figuring out your students because
Yes.
I've only taught kindergarten, and so when I'm on Pinterest, I can be like, "Ooh, this would be really great," or
Mhm.
"How can I adjust this to actually fit my students better and this age range?" Whereas if I moved to 2nd grade, I would be on Pinterest 100% getting ideas, but I wouldn't 100% know how to scaffold or differentiate it or make it
Mhm.
more beneficial for the age of the students until I've taught. So it's also just kind of a learning
Yeah,
curve and experience.
I totally agree. I
100%.
feel like, yeah, you just, like, it should be inspiration, you do not need to copy and paste. And one thing that you might find on Pinterest that works really well on year 2 of teaching, you're gonna get a whole new batch of kids on year 3, and that it might not work. So, yeah, don't put too much pressure on, like, yeah, the Pinterest perfect. Um, Sometimes, like, they're cute, but they're not functional. So
100%, 100%. All right, now getting into more practical talk. Is one lesson or activity that you always do the first week of school?
So I always read it's either the first or second day, depending on when I can fit it in, but we read our Classroom as a Family. It's a really cute, like, picture storybook, and then there's an activity that goes along with it. So we read it, and then I have them do an activity, and then we also use everything that we talked about from that book to, co-create our,
Expectations, rules.
expectations. Yes, our expectations for our classroom. And that is something that I've always done, especially, like, specifically that book in kindergarten, but even when I was doing 1st and 3rd, I always found a book that was, like, age appropriate, that talked about the importance of, like, respect in the classroom, and then an activity, and then co-creating rules and expectations.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's huge, and I like that you mentioned co-creating because it just gives students the, like, ownership.
yes.
Like, it's their classroom, like we talked about earlier, like, maybe we decorated it, but it is
Mhm,
their space, and we
mhm.
are co-creating the rules and expectations with
Yeah.
them, which is huge.
What do you do to build classroom community in the first month?
Okay. So the school that we teach at is pretty like culturally, linguistically diverse. We have
Mhm.
a lot of multi-language learners and they come from lots of different countries. Sometimes we have like immigrant students or refugee students who just came to the country. And so my biggest thing is creating an environment where they feel seen and valued and that their culture is represented within the classroom, and that it's seen as an asset instead of a deficit. And so yes, so what I usually like to do is, like, I'll introduce myself,
Mhm.
I will have a PowerPoint of things that, like, I like, I love pugs, I learned that the first day, chocolate, Starbucks, any type of coffee, etcetera. I'll introduce my family, I'll introduce and state, like, languages that I speak un poquito español, and, like, maybe some countries I've visited, as my students can kinda relate to that.
Yeah.
And then we'll go around and have, like, a little talking piece, and students will, if they want to, will, like, say their name, say their favorite color, say something about themselves, so we kinda become like a classroom community like you talked about,
Yeah.
and build that mutual respect, and at the end of the day, just making sure that students see the value of, like, the unique differences and just
Mhm.
celebrating that as a huge strength is, like, one of the biggest things.
Yes. I love that.
Oh, okay, this is a good one. How do you approach student behavior expectations from day 1? And this is our behavior queen, so listen up.
Um, she's really, like, gassing me up with this behavior stuff.
Hey.
I feel okay, I'm really, really big on holding students accountable and having high expectations for all students. It doesn't matter their language background, IEP or no IEP, like, every single student in your classroom is capable. Yes, you have to differentiate, absolutely, but that does not mean that, like, our basic standards of how we're gonna treat each other and how we're gonna function in this classroom necessarily need to be, changed. So, that being said, I think, like, okay, when I say that, I mean, like, some students might need breaks, right? Like, give them their break, but I don't care I don't care, period. You're not throwing chairs across my room, you're not throwing stuffed animals across my room, you're not like, those things are non-negotiable, and so what I do from day 1, I have, like, a very warm but, like, demanding tone with them to where they know, like, I love you, but I have expectations for you, and I have these expectations because I love you and I believe in you. And, I don't let anything slide, like, even on day 1. If I wouldn't let them get away with it on day 31, they're not gonna get away with it on day 1. And so that just looks like on the first day, like, if they are doing something or engaging in a behavior that is not ideal, redirecting them with positive talk of, like, "Oh, that's not a happy choice. Let's change our actions, like, let's make a happy choice. I need you to push your chair in." I really, really try, especially when you're, like, building those relationships with the kids and getting to know them, it's really powerful to tell the student, the child, what you want them to do, like, how they can make you happy, 'cause any five-year-old just wants to make you happy. So instead of, like, focusing on what they're doing that is negative or, like, not what you want, you focus on what you want them to do, and you hold that expectation, like, "We won't move on until this is done." And I think that's where the beginning of the year, when you're trying to build the relationship, some teachers can be like, "Well, like, I'm building the relationship, like, I want them to love me." And it's like, they will love you and respect you a lot more if you hold them accountable, especially, like, long term. Um it's a lot harder to start soft and build up hard than it is to start hard and then soften up throughout the year. So and
100%.
I'm not saying, like, yell at your students or, like, be mean to them at all. You're warm, you have your demanding tone, you're loving, you give hugs if they want them, but if they're doing something that is not appropriate or just not something that is on your co-created expectations, like, you're nipping it in the butt on day 1 with positive reinforcement. So whether that's just telling them, like, "I need you to push your chair into the table," or, "I see Susie's cleaning up her crayons. I see Ivan's putting his scissors away." Um, that can also be helpful, but yeah, like, my biggest piece of advice for any teacher, but, like, specifically newer, you're not their friend, you're their teacher, and so you want to be loving and kind and, like, you want them to love you and respect you most importantly, and so that starts from, like, you've got to set those expectation of what is acceptable in the classroom versus what's not, really from day one,
Yeah,
because
because if you're not consistent with that, like you say this is the consequence that you're gonna receive, but, like, you're kind of changing it depending on like, because it's day 1 or
yeah,
whatever, that they'll see that and they'll take advantage of that, and that's
yeah,
something that I personally am, like, working on, and, like, Jesse's helped me a lot with, is just being like, we need to follow through with these consequences that we've
mhm,
agreed upon as a class
right,
to make sure that we're all safe and we can all learn and we feel respected in the classroom. And so I just think it's huge to make sure you're following through. I know it's really hard,
yeah,
especially like for me, the first day of school is like it's so chaotic. I have so many kids that are needing support that it's easy to ignore maybe
mhm,
something that was a behavior that you are is unexpected or you don't want. But I think it's important that either you call for assistance if there's like a really big behavior so that student knows that like that's not something that's safe, it's not expected, and it's not something that they can do again without a
right.
consequence.
Right, and when we say consequence too, especially in these first couple weeks of school, I'm not saying please don't put your child out in the hallway, don't do that, like, do not do that. If they need to be removed to, like, emotionally regulate themselves, call for support and have somebody help them do it. Do not put any child, I don't care how old they are, in the hallway to think about it, they're not gonna be thinking about it. Um, but also consequences, like, they can be natural consequences, like,
Mhm.
you um, threw the book across the classroom. We're not going anywhere, you're not moving on to the next task until the book is put back where the book belongs. To a 5-year-old, that is the consequence. They don't need to be missing recess on the first week of school. Do not, like I said, put them in the hallway. They're not missing lunchtime, like, you're not taking things away from them, and even, like, as the year goes on, natural consequences are a thing, like, even as you're into adulthood. So, try to find a natural consequence for that behavior because then it'll also help the student connect their behavior to the consequence, and then they won't wanna do it again.
Mhm.
Where if they threw pencils across the room, but you picked them up, and then they had to miss all of recess, that's just gonna make them mad. They're not gonna
You're not connecting.
like, connect why they're sitting out at recess, and it has in the big scheme of things, like, they threw pencils, they easily could have put the pencils away, and even if they were late to recess, that's one thing, but, like,
That's part of yeah,
they
that's
gotta make sense, like, the consequence should somehow be tied to what the behavior was,
100%.
especially with the littles, but, like, honestly, with the bigs too. Like,
Mhm.
think about even as an adult, like, if if something happens and then they're like, "Oh, you broke the table," like, now you
Now you have to pay for it, sorry.
yeah,
I
like, that's a
mean
natural consequence, like, "Oh, well." But if it's not connected, it's hard for them to grasp it, so,
mhm, mhm.
that's what I mean. Don't do anything like, yeah, we're not doing anything crazy here. Alright, we have just one more question, we could go on and on about our why probably forever, so we're gonna try to keep it, like, short and sweet and concise, but especially in teaching, it's, like, it is important to remember your why. Our principals say that to us sometimes, and we're like, "Milton." But it is important, like, it really is. So, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, it's for the money.
Yeah,
No,
that's
just
it.
kidding, of course. No, I mean, I think it's huge. So for me, going into, teaching was huge because when I was in school, school was really hard for me.
Mhm.
I would compare myself to my peers a lot, and I really struggled with reading specifically.
Yeah,
And so I was like one of those students that would receive intervention, and there's nothing wrong with intervention. But the way that I felt and the way it was kind of, brought upon me was not the best feeling. So, like, when I remember my friend Kenzie teaches 5th grade, and she would use Read Naturally, and when I first found that out, I was like, "Kenzie, why are you using Read Naturally?" And it, like, gave me the worst anxiety, and she's like, I don't do it the way I explained my story, and she's like, "I don't do it like that." Like, I used to have to sit in the hallway, all these classes would walk past me, I would have, like, a paraprofessional, like, listening to me read and do all these things, and it was just so embarrassing. Um, and so I just knew, like, I never want someone to feel like that, 1.
Yeah.
And then 2, recognizing and being grateful for, like, my family to help support me during this. Like, my dad especially and my mom both advocated a lot for me being like, "Alright, like, she's really struggling, like, this
Mhm.
she needs extra support, and, like, we need to figure out how we can get her that." And so, obviously, it's a huge privilege to have a family who's, like, navigated the educational system, and speaks English as their first language to be able to do that, and I recognize that. And not all students, not all children and families are able to do that.
Mhm.
And so I just knew I wanted to be like that voice to help advocate for equity and things that are right and best supports for students. And then just make sure that, like, students know that, like, although this may be challenging for you or you need a little bit of extra support, that doesn't make you less than,
Yeah.
and it just helps you learn and grow, and we're all different and unique, and that's what's great about us. And then really emphasizing and celebrating, like, the strengths that students have, whether that's, like, they are a beautiful artist and
Mhm.
recognizing that that's a huge strength, like, maybe it's not just reading or math, but they're amazing in the arts, and that's something to celebrate and something that students need to know that they're good at, and so that's what drives me to show up every day. Yeah.
Love it. I'm gonna try to keep mine, like, short and sweet. I feel like, especially, like, with our demographic, we have such diverse, like, population in terms of race, ethnicity, language, really everything, like, needs, and so my, like, biggest thing is I wanna advocate, and I do advocate for my kids when they can't advocate for themselves, but my why goes so much further than, like, the classroom, like, it goes so far beyond the classroom and their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. I want them to believe in themselves enough to be able to advocate for themselves. Um, there's so many different aspects of life where if you don't know how to appropriately advocate for yourself, it's detrimental. And so, of course, I want them to grow academically with me, but building the social skills and the emotional intelligence and the vocabulary to be able to identify how you're feeling and calmly tell somebody, like, what you need and how they can support you in any realm, I think is, like, one of the most powerful tools that you can have. And so, yes, I only teach kinder and, like, I'm, like, what's the, like, base
Yep.
of all of this, and I can only hope that all of the kids that I have continue to have teachers who give them voice and give them encouragement and allow them to be themselves and celebrate their wins, but it's so important to advocate for yourself and to know how. Like, advocating for yourself is not throwing a fit because you're upset. And so, like, sometimes, like, my team will laugh at me because, like, I do talk to the 5-year-olds. Not like they're grown, but, like, they're not babies, and they are so, so, so capable, and if you limit them because you think, like, they're only 5, they're not able to tell me how they're feeling or work through this problem with me, that's only hurting them because they are. They might need you to help talk through all of these emotions and what they need, like, you can give them a choice board that's appropriate for a 5-year-old, but eventually, like, even from day 1 of kinder to the last day of kinder, like, I have had kids that, like, couldn't tell me they were angry, sad, or mad and how I could help them on the first day, and then they're giving me, like, full sentences on how they're feeling, and so that's advocating for themselves at that age, and I wish I continue to hope that, like, that just keeps growing,
Yeah,
so
especially, like, I think what is huge, and probably I could say for both of us, is, like, our why is way stronger than just teaching, reading, ABCs,
yes.
math, etcetera.
Thank you for tuning in to episode 3. Um, every episode is another lesson in progress, but we do feel like we're getting better each and every episode.
Yes.
So leave any tips or tricks in the comments. If you're a teacher, comment something that you're going to implement from this video into this year of teaching, and good luck. We all got this.
Well, until next time, be kind to yourself.
And remember, we are all lessons in progress.
Cheers.